Money 105.5 with Glenn Spillman and Charlton Curry. This is Epic Sports Radio.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton Curry, along with my partner, Glenn Spillman. Today's show is something that we're very grateful for at Epic Sports Radio on Money 105.5. I also want to thank our excellent producer, Steve, who makes us look good and sound good, if that can be said on the radio. And again, a little bit about our show. You can find out about everything that we do by following the epicnewssports.com. And a little bit about myself, and I'll have Glenn tell you about himself. I've worked covering the NFL football and the NBA basketball as well as Major League Baseball since about 1988, covering college sports, and also had Sports Talk USA where we covered all the major sports and covered 4 Super Bowls and had a great time learning about the business. And Glenn, I know you also have a big history in the sports business.
Yeah, I've been around since about 1990. Started out doing stuff at Oklahoma, and then I've worked with the professional teams, Houston Rockets, Blazers hockey team in Oklahoma City. Done a lot of stuff. I've done a couple Super Bowls myself. You know, and it's been great to me, man. It's had a lot of fun doing it. I still have a lot of fun doing it, and it's great. It's my therapy.
Well, we all need the therapy. We know we had the Major League Baseball playoffs going on, the ALCS, NLCS. We'll talk about that.
You know what? We could talk about 2 seconds. Blue Jays just closed out the game. They won 7-1. So now it's Kansas City 3 games to Blue Jays 2. They're going back to Kansas City.
Oh, Canada. Well, that's always great for baseball. And also this time of year, as we'll talk about the Cubs coming up soon, but I know we have Big C, who covers the NFL for us from the East Coast, and Big C has over 40 years of experience as a coach, as a national broadcaster on television and radio, and he has a passion for the NFL, and he'll talk about the NFL and what he sees as some of the big games coming up this week and what we had last week. Big C, are you on the line?
I'm here, guys. Great to be with you.
What's up, Big C?
I look at those young years you guys got involved in sports, 1990. I got shoes that old.
Okay. Must be Nike. What are your thoughts on the NFL over the last week? We know we had some big games. I was surprised that Arizona lost to Pittsburgh, but I know West Coast teams going to the East Coast with an early start can always be a challenge.
It is always a challenge with that time change. You normally need to arrive 2 days early to get acclimated, but when you come in the night before, it's going to be very tough on your players with the jet lag and the time difference. You're getting up 3 hours earlier to play a game. It was a shocker that Pittsburgh handled Arizona in the fashion that they did,
yes,
but it was more because of Landry Jones who came in. That offense that they run,
Oklahoma,
fit his style a lot better than what it did Michael Vick. He's a big quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger. He's 6'5", and he also had more snaps than any quarterback during the preseason. So it wasn't like he was totally rusty.
Also, New England. I know, Big C, you're really high on New England. They're off to a great start again under Belichick. And with Tom Brady, they made a lot about Deflategate going into Indianapolis. Wasn't really a close game. I mean, the score ended up being close, but they were clearly ahead most of the time. They were in control. And what are your thoughts on New England so far as they progress throughout the season?
Well, it's like Glenn said last week in the program, next man up in New England. You do your job. And when you look at their offensive line, that's where you have to start at. They have 2 rookies and an undrafted free agent starting on this offensive line. Yet Tom Brady is leading the NFL in touchdown passes.
Yes.
Everybody within the system of New England understands Bill Belichick and vice versa. You come there without an ego. You come there to be a team player. And when you think about Bill Belichick, it's not just in New England. When Bill Parcells won Super Bowls,
yes,
Bill Belichick was his defensive coordinator.
That's true. Well, you know, Brady, 14 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. Glenn, I know that you like the way that he's playing also. And Big C, I know you like Andy Dalton with Cincinnati. I know that Glenn's also high on Dalton. What are your thoughts on his performance? A lot of people are saying that he may be the NFL MVP.
Well, I think he might be sitting second in that category right now. Tom Brady, it's his to lose.
Yeah.
You know, his performance week in and week out is just uncanny. Andy Dalton, though, you got to give the young man kudos. He's not a young man anymore. He's a 5-year veteran in the NFL. He is doing what you expect. When you pay a quarterback a copious amount of money, when you get to that 7-digit salary where he is now. And he is performing. He is not one of those guys who is taking a step back once he got the big contract. He is up to his performance level.
Well, Dalton, his numbers look very good, as well as Brady. 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, this is a guy that we've been talking about for years, 18 years. They're also undefeated. And Denver's undefeated because of their defense. Even though, whether they win or lose, Peyton Manning always seems to be the guy that people talk about because he's been around for so long. What are your thoughts on Peyton Manning? He seems to throw more picks than touchdowns lately.
Well, he is. He's leading the NFL in interceptions. And anyone who watches Peyton Manning week in and week out, it's very predictable that his balls are not getting there at the velocity that they did 2 years ago. 2 seasons ago, he set an NFL record for touchdown passes during a season.
Yes.
And now he's leading the NFL in interceptions. And when you spoke about the defense, Wade Phillips is not getting enough credit in Denver for the job that defense is doing. He's always been maligned as a head coach, whether it was in Houston, whether it was in Buffalo, whether it was in Denver when he was a head coach. But as a defensive coordinator, he was also in Dallas. But as a defensive coordinator, he's been second to none. You know, he reminds a lot of people of his dad, Bum Phillips, who used to coach the Houston Oilers years ago.
Yes.
But as a defensive coach, defensive coordinator, he's been a guru in the NFL for over a decade.
Well, you know, speaking of gurus, I know we look at the NFC Big C. Atlanta looks very good. They're off to a 5-1 start. But Green Bay gave up over 500 yards passing to Phillip Rivers in San Diego and a great defensive stop at the end of the game to preserve that win. We know that you like Rodgers, and their defense is good. I know, Glenn, you're big in their defense, but they were lucky to win that game against San Diego. They're 6-0 Big C, and then I want to get Glenn's thoughts on that after you.
Well, you know, I talked about this secondary last week in the program about how unsung they was. They got torched for 500 yards, but it was that bend, don't break mentality. At the end of the game, when the play needed to be made, it was made by the secondary. Phillip Rivers is no slouch when it comes to quarterbacks in NFL. He's going to be in the top 6 category. He's been an elite quarterback for the past decade in the NFL. Going in against Green Bay's defense, they run a lot of similar schemes. And you got to look at the head coach, Mike McCoy, who was in San Diego, started his career in Green Bay in the NFL. So he was very familiar with the coaching style that goes on in Green Bay and their offensive mindset and defensive mindset. So when you take pieces like that, they're easy to break down the other opponent when you play each other.
Okay, wonderful, Big C. In the next 2 minutes that we have here, we're going to ask Glenn, I know the big game coming up this week, the Jets and the Patriots, should be a great defensive game. I know that Glenn's big on the point spreads. And let me get, Glenn, if you have any thoughts on the point spread with that game coming up.
Well, you know, New England is favored by only 8.5. And I know the Jets are doing great this year. But you're in New England, you're in Foxborough, and just like Big C says, everything's going to go through Foxborough. And I think not only are the Patriots going to cover 8.5, I'm going to double that. And because Brady, and sometimes, you know, he struggles a little bit during the game, but he always comes back and he always brings on the heat. So they're definitely going to cover that. But, you know, the Jets are going to make it interesting.
Big C, what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, you know, I like what Glenn says as far as New England covering. I don't know if they'll go 14, but you got to look at Ryan Fitzpatrick and Chris Ivory, 2 veterans that have really helped the Jets' offense this year. They've stabilized things. They wouldn't be the same team if they had Geno Smith at quarterback. It's been a blessing that he got hurt in the preseason for the team because Fitzpatrick has come in and stabilized their offense. Chris Ivory at running back, he was with the Saints when they won the Super Bowl. He was their leading rusher back then, but he had to go with the salary cap implications. He's landed in New York. He stabilized that running game that they haven't had for a long time. It's going to be a close one. I like it for being less than 7.
Wonderful. In the next 30 seconds, Glenn, what do you have on the point spread with Carolina and Philadelphia? That's a big game. Cam Newton won a big game last week.
You know, Carolina is favored by 3. Cam Newton is doing good, but you know what? They almost lost that game. Philadelphia, DeMarco Murray broke the century mark with 109 yards last week. And I think he could do that again this week. It's gonna be interesting. They're in Philadelphia. That's gonna make it more interesting. But I still think Carolina's gonna pull it off.
Well, that sounds good, Glenn. Big C, we'll get you more in the second half as we talk college football again. My name is Charlton Curry. We love talking sports on Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday at 4:00 p.m. on Money 105.5. If you're a homeowner and you're struggling with your mortgage payments, if your bank is giving you the runaround and you can't get a loan modification and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA.
First, let's note that NFA has received a certification of registration from the California Attorney General's office and has a bond on file with Secretary of State as required by law. NFA will inform homeowners of what their projected income and expenses and other info needs to be to have the best chance of receiving a loan mod. We will recommend qualifying income and expenses that will get them pre-qualified.
If your loan company is giving you the runaround and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA at 916-896-5757. That is 916-896-5757.
My name is Lynn Hallbash. I'm a certified agent with Safe ID Trust. Here is an interesting fact. Most people insure their cars, homes, and valuables for their peace of mind and replacements. But in light of ID theft being the fastest growing crime in the world, they don't think about insuring their identities. But that's what we do at Safe ID Trust. We offer online ID monitoring with our Safe ID Trust Detective, wallet replacement service, 24/7 customer service, and much, much more. By having identity coverage, we restore your identity 100% to pre-theft status. We do all the work for you. You can contact me at 916-826-5762 and the web at safezone.safeidtrust.com. At Gamble Insurance Agency, we put the odds in your favor. We handle most or all of your insurance needs and act as your insurance advisor. We will put together a suitable buying strategy with your financial future in mind. We are an independent farmers agency. Call Kit Gamble for a free farmers-friendly review of your insurance policy at 530-772-5041. That is 530-772-5041. Half of the United States population follows sports in some form or fashion. Sports is a billion-dollar industry. If you're not advertising with a sports team, you are simply missing the boat. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. EpicNewsSports.com is your doorway to helping your customers follow sports. Whether it's pro, college, or prep sports, it is a great investment of your advertising dollar. With half of the country following sports, you can too by visiting EpicNewsSports.com.
Money 105.5 with Epic Sports Radio.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with my partner Glenn Spillman. We love talking sports and we talking football. We have Big C calling in from the East Coast, and we know we love NFL football, but there's also, Glenn, something that's very exciting as we talk about college football.
Yeah.
Because we played college football.
Yeah.
And the older we get, the better we were.
Yep.
Is that the case for you too?
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of like I caught the fish and it's 18 inches long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Coach Harbaugh at Michigan.
Yeah. Sorry, brother.
What happened? Why? I mean, my heart goes out to the punter, but they had a win against their arch rival Michigan State with 10 seconds left, and all he had to do was lay on the ball.
Yeah. I think their nerves got to him. They got a little too excited, kind of like little chihuahuas do a little bit. And sometimes when you just take your mind off of it just for that second, little things like that can happen. And then when you're in the game like that, sometimes you just don't think.
Yeah, especially when you have over 110,000 fans. And also a Big C. I know we touched a little bit last week. We were talking about USC Notre Dame. That's one of the oldest cross-section rivalries in college football. And I don't know if we gave enough time to it, but if you could touch a little bit more about the coaching change, but in particular, Pat Hayden. We know there are things coming up we're going to talk about with Pitino at Louisville. But again, Pat Hayden walking onto the game, Notre Dame and USC actually collapsed. A lot of stress he's under. But we talk about accountability, Big C. And your thoughts, what accountability should Pat Hayden have to face?
Pat Hayden should has to face the ultimate culpability for this situation. He is the one who has been in charge since Pete Carroll left USC. He has fired 2 coaches during the season. That's not total professionalism from that AD. You know, if you don't have trust in a guy, and he knew a Sarkisian situation prior to the season opening, he should have taken care of it at that point. You can't say, well, we'll try to get him treatment throughout the season.
Yes.
because you know that he's an addict.
Well,
But Pat Hayden has let
yeah.
the genie slip out of the box a couple times,
Yeah.
but he wants to pass the blame.
And also, we talked about also, Glenn, if you're trying to get a $30,000 a year job,
Right.
you go through a background check, right?
Exactly.
We have Tony the Tiger Lopez in studio. He can do background checks on anybody.
Oh, yeah.
So if a guy's getting $3 million a year,
Yes.
how do you not know something about that?
That's crazy. It's like we talked about last week. You know what? You might know something about it. You might not. But
Yeah.
if you don't, then that's on you. And it's not rocket science. And these guys, they have so much at their fingertips
Yes.
to do. And they're just somebody dropped the ball, or a lot of people dropped the ball. And like I said last week.
Let me inject a little bit something on that.
Yeah.
Greer, the quarterback at University of Florida.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
What happened to him?
Got rid of him.
He went under a random drug test.
Yep.
Yep.
Why does not the NCAA do random drug tests on coaches? You only do them on players.
That's a
Even
very
in the
good
NFL,
point.
they only do them on players.
Very good point.
Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts,
Oh,
last
Lord.
summer,
Yeah.
back in March, he gets caught with $29,000 of prescription narcotics in the front seat of his car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not in his name, illegal prescriptions.
Yeah.
$27,000 cash.
Slap on the hand.
He was slapped on the wrist by the commissioner. If that had been a player, he'd have had a full-year suspension.
Oh, yeah, at least.
And
Plus
that's
big
it.
fines, you know.
Big fines
Yeah.
too. You're right, Big C. You're right with that. So we want to see just some parity. We want to see the athletes and the coaches and the ADs get the same type of treatment. And also, Big C, I know you're big on SEC football, and I know that in the South, I think football is only second to religion. Is that what we hear?
No, religion's is second to football.
Okay, well, I had it backwards.
You know,
Okay,
You know, church gets out early on Sunday.
okay.
Amen, brother.
They get out at 12:30 here in the South on Sunday. Everybody wants to be in front of the television, even the minister.
Well, we don't want to upset our great fans from the great state of Texas, but I do want to ask you, Big C, about the SEC. Alabama going on the road to play Texas A&M in front of over 100,000, and they got the win.
Well, you know, Alabama's just a physically imposing team. When they want to impose their physical will, when they try to play a finesse game, they're just like anybody else. But when you have Clydesdales, what do? You plow over people.
Yes.
If you have quarter horses, you run short races. These Clydesdales that Alabama have, and when you look at the running back that they have, number 2, and I can't think of his name at the moment, but this guy, when you turn him loose on secondaries, nobody wants to tackle him.
Yes.
Everybody just stand there and watches. And this offensive line that averages about 320
They're
pounds,
huge for college kids.
Yeah.
when they get their nose in the dirt, it's all over.
Well, you know, also when you talk about the size of the athlete, it goes back to the great Paul Bear Bryant when USC went in there and beat him under John McKay, and I believe it was Sam Bam Cunningham. And after
Yes.
that loss, that's when, what happened after that loss, Big C?
Well, prior to that, Alabama nor any other SEC team was integrated. But after Sam Cunningham ran for 177 yards and 4 touchdowns against Alabama, Coach Bryant decided he could no longer play without African-American players. And the
Exactly.
following year, he brought several onto the roster and changed the complexion of the SEC.
And now it seems to dominate all of college football. And also, Big C, as we wrap up the college section, I know that we have Glenn. And Glenn, you're big on the point spread. I know number 1 Ohio State, they're kind of, everyone's giving them some backlash because
Yep.
they really haven't been that impressive. They're playing Rutgers, and their point spread against Rutgers, Glenn.
Yeah, the point spread is 21. You know, and I would like to say, you know, a little shout out to myself. I did do a little betting this weekend, and I must say I won. So, you know, drinks on me tonight. All right, but 21. You know, Rutgers they score 34.3 points a game. Ohio State 37. If that falls true this week, Ohio State's not going to cover the 21, and I really don't think they will cover the 21.
Big C, what are your thoughts on Ohio State? I know in the SEC you've been big on the SEC and somewhat critical of the Big Ten. What are your thoughts on Ohio State?
Ohio State has only covered the spread once this season. And when you get up 3 touchdowns spread in a game, always take the points because that means that home team, unless you're playing Baylor,
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Whatever Baylor gives, you take it.
Oh,
But Ohio State, I don't see them covering.
Okay, wonderful. And Big C, you mentioned it first. Speaking of Baylor, I know that Glenn is big on Baylor and the point spread. They're playing Iowa State this week. What is the point spread?
Point spread on Baylor. You know what? A lot of
It's
people.
not enough.
Yeah, you know what? It's 37, and that's exactly right because Baylor points per game is 63.8. Iowa State's only 26.8, and that's a lot more than 37. And Russell's got, 500 more passing yards. And Baylor's, I'm sorry, you're in Baylor. They're going to win by a lot more than 37. I'm sorry. I'm taking that.
And Glenn, when you look at the last 2 games that Russell played, 2 weeks ago against Kansas, he only played 2 quarters. Last week, he only played 3.
Yeah, so if he would have played all this 1907 yards that he has, we'll add a few hundred more to that.
Well, Baylor football should actually be playing Baylor basketball, and they probably outscore them. Now, this is an odd score right here, an odd pick. Number 3, Utah, Glenn.
Yeah.
They're at USC, but they're an underdog at USC that just got beaten by Notre Dame, also lost earlier to Stanford and Washington.
Utah, they're kind of funny, but USC too. They're 3.5 favorites, but you know what? I'm thinking I'm taking Utah on the points on this one, because they could surprise you, and they have surprised many people this year already. And USC I just don't have faith in it. I'm sorry.
Well, they have a new coach. Also, I want to wrap this section up. We have about 2 minutes left to go in Big C. I want to get your thoughts on it because you've covered college football. You've covered pro football. I know that we have Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Stanford's number 10. They're playing Washington. But as we go into the next segment, we have Coach Rick Pitino under fire at Louisville. Give about 1 minute of your thoughts on that and all the scandal that's around that because it's big all over the country.
Well, the thing I hate about it is the woman came out and admitted what's going on. This is nothing new. Anybody who's ever doled in college athletics understands certain things go on. Is it publicized? No. Is it legal? No. But it has always gone on. Big schools don't get the recruits just because they're the big schools.
Right.
You have to give perks. Things go on behind closed doors, and if anybody who's ever been involved in college athletics, you might say that you're embarrassed and you want someone to come out and speak on it. But she has a lot of factuality in what she did. She didn't do anything to benefit herself. She's going to end up under criminal prosecution because she divulges everything.
Well, I think that's something, too, Big C, when you talk about that. We talk about accountability. And we know Rick Pitino flies around the country on private jets. And no one's saying that he knew everything because you can't know everything that your own kids are doing, let alone can our parents know what we do at specific times, especially going to college. I just hope that we can clear things up. And when someone's accused of whatever, whether they knew or not, I hope that we can find that at least the people in charge of someone's kid coming to college, that they're under the same microscope as a kid, Glenn, as you talked about earlier, the quarterback at Florida.
Yeah.
When a kid makes a mistake, oftentimes they get rid of him. So coming back to the break, Glenn, your thoughts on the next 20 seconds of Pitino and a little bit of what's happening there.
Well, I will say this. I said this earlier. The girl that brought all this to light, she said in an interview last night, she goes, I kept a journal because I knew this day was coming.
Wow.
Now, when she said that just a light bulb went off in my head. She had this plans. And this was planned. And again, I'm not saying this stuff doesn't go on, but what I'm saying is this thing was planned from the get-go, and I think some people are getting some money out of this. That's for 15 minutes of fame. But I feel sorry for Rick Pitino. He's a good guy, and no matter what happens, his legacy's kind of tainted now.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And also, Big C, we want to thank you for your time covering pro football and college football. This is Charlton Curry and Glenn Spillman. We'll come back on Epic Sports, and we'll talk more about Major League Baseball. And you just mentioned the score, Glenn.
Yep.
We'll have more of that as we come back on Money 105.5.
From the Big Mountain Heating, Air, and Solar Traffic Center, Charlie Simons.
Capital City Freeway Business 80 portion, we got ourselves a little bit of slow travel. In fact, both directions along its entire span, both the 50 and the Biz 80 portion. And a lot of problems, too, at 99 northbound at Broadway Street. And that's creating problems for anyone on 50 and 99. 80 heading eastbound coming in from Davis, starting at 113. It's slow going even over the Yolo Causeway. And in West Sacramento, it stays about 35, 40 miles an hour on average until you get past Truxell Road at the top of town. I-5 coming out of Woodland starts to slow down at Airport Boulevard until you get past where 99 and I-5 come together. That's how you're driving. I'm Charlie Simons.
Folks, if you only knew how filthy dirty your heating and air system gets, you might not turn it on. I'm Farron Larson for Big Mountain. Your heating and air system moves more dirt annually than the average household vacuum cleaner does. Big Mountain will clean the hidden coil and ductwork in your system that traps most of the filth that gets circulated through your home. Then we'll seal all your ductwork, saving you as much as $400 a year on your SMUD and PG&E bills, and you pay only $21 a month, making you one of Big Mountain's pampered priority clients with free service all year long, $21 a month, or make it free if you choose to purchase high-efficiency HVAC or solar systems from Big Mountain anytime during the next 2 to 10 years. All your monthly costs will be refunded, making your service free. Call 378-4616 or BigMountainAir.com. 378-4616 or BigMountainAir.com. Thanks for considering Big Mountain, folks.
If you could choose any school from which to earn your college degree and be on your way to a better life, would you choose a school the Wall Street Journal recognized for producing some of the best qualified graduates? One the Princeton Review ranked as a leader in undergraduate education? And one U.S. News & World Report named #1 in the nation for innovation ahead of both MIT and Stanford? Discover why Arizona State University is a clear choice for your future. In addition, ASU Online offers over 100 graduate and undergraduate programs you can take 100% online and on your schedule. You'll receive the exact same curriculum, degree, and prestigious faculty as our on-campus students. For information, call 1-800-720-2358. U.S. News & World Report also ranked ASU in the top 10 best places to earn an online degree. So get started today and learn to thrive with Arizona State University online. Call today at 1-800-720-2358. That's 1-800-720-2358.
I'm Pat Barr.
I'm Don Padilla, Financial Advisors with Wells Fargo Advisors in Sacramento. Pat, since the market crash in 2008, I've observed that too many investors are unsuccessfully trying to time the market. They don't want to lose. They are waiting for the perfect time to invest, which never seems to come.
Yeah, they're stuck on the sidelines, wasting opportunity. If you find yourself in that position, please call us at 916-275-8100. That's 916-275-8100.
Wells Fargo Advisors, LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer and a separate non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo & Company.
Sean Davis here, the host of Uncommon Investments and Resources. Let me ask you a question. If there was an investment model out there that had, for 20 years, realized a compounded return of 13.9% per year, when would you want to know about it? Yes, 13.9% per year. Now, what if this investment model achieved this only with 6% of the model invested in the stock market? Wouldn't you be curious as to how they did it? I would certainly want to know. I will discuss this and a lot more this Saturday at 8 a.m. right here.
This is Epic Sports Radio on Money 105.5 and Money1055.com.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with Epic Sports Radio every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. on Money 105.5. And again, I want to thank our excellent producer, Steve. He makes us look good and sound good as we are on the radio. Glenn, I know you had a few more things you wanted to mention about Coach Rick Pitino as we talked about that.
Yeah, I just want to thank the University of Louisville for getting back to me today, and Emily James, I appreciate the email. I know they can't talk about it, and she mentioned that in her email, but she did say, generally speaking, a university makes all employment decisions.
Yeah.
The Committee on Infractions for Level 1 or 2 or NCAA for Level 3 violations can suspend a coach, but only after violations have been found. And she cannot speculate on such penalties. But I hope, one more time, I hope Rick Pitino does not get suspended for this, and that is all I will say on that subject matter.
And that message goes out to, we're nationwide. So if you are a college kid or even coach or athletic director, you have to know what's going on in your organization. To say I don't know, sometimes it gets you in hot water anyway. And speaking of hot water, as we transition into Major League Baseball, I know you just mentioned live on the air, Glenn, up in Toronto, the Royals have a 3-2 series lead. What a great game today by Toronto.
Yeah, it was a great game by Toronto. Royals stumbled a little bit, and it cost them. But you know what? I think they're going to go back home, and they're going to win it in their home ballpark. Kansas City is going to go crazy. And I think we're going to see I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to see the Royals and the Mets in the World Series. And I'm going to call Royals in 6.
What about the Cubs? Oh, Chicago. What about the Cubs, Glenn?
I'm sorry. You know what? The last time a team came back from a deficit like that was the Boston Red Sox against the Yankees, and I do not think the Cubs can do that. You know, the movie Back to the Future kind of predicted it this year, and I think more than a prediction, that was a curse. Sorry, Cubby fans.
I know the fans in Chicago, man, what a great town for sports, and we all love sports, but Chicago is a little bit more fanatic than most places around the country, especially when it comes to their Cubs. Also, you had some articles about Dale Murphy and the game with the Dodgers.
Yeah, and you know what? I know that's old news, but you know what? The thing that killed the Dodgers was, you know, Dale Murphy, he goes all the way to third from first.
Yes.
When Zach Greinke walked Lucas DeLuca,
yeah,
the Dodgers didn't have anyone on third. They had the shift, and when Dale Murphy went to third, it was all downhill from there, and that was the play that killed the Dodgers.
When you think about Kershaw and Greinke being beaten, they started 4-5 in that series. They're the most dominant pitchers in the Dodgers organization. What does that say about their multi-million-dollar contracts? And I think, actually, Greinke wants out of there now.
You know what? He might want out of there, but I would kind of warn him not to go searching for grass is greener on the other side. You know, so just kind of chill out a little bit and, you know, do your thing and don't be going somewhere else just because you're chasing the money.
I think what happens sometimes in Los Angeles, outside of the Lakers, there seems to be this Hollywood image of everyone who plays sports in L.A., and I know they're trying to get a $1.7 billion football stadium.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Dodgers, if you get away from Tommy Lasorda and all the success they had down there, they really haven't lived up to their billing. And I know Magic Johnson's one of the owners of that team. What do you see happening? I know you've written articles on Yasiel Puig, how great of an athlete he is. We talked about Kershaw, Cy Young candidate. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers going forward?
You know, I think they'll regroup in the offseason. I think Johnson and company will make some key changes, and they'll bring up I think they need a couple more pitchers.
Yeah.
And they'll step it up a little bit more next year, and they're getting a little better and better. And I know fans don't want to hear that, but they got to add a couple more pitchers in there, you know, because they're just kind of falling short when it comes down to the final game in these playoffs.
Well, I know one more thing that we want to talk about that's near and dear to all the West Coast fans. I know the Giants fans are so happy that the Dodgers fell, but we also had the retirement of one of the greatest pitchers in the San Francisco Bay Area history. Zito. Yes.
Yeah, Zito. Yeah, you know what? I wish him luck. And Zito, if you're listening, take a long vacation. You know, have some fun, spend time with your family, and you know, we'll catch you next year.
Well, you know what, too? When we look at Northern California, great sports events, we just had the Fry's Open, Glenn.
Yeah.
And over there in beautiful Napa.
Awesome.
And I know a lot of people love golf all over the country.
Yep.
If I don't hear the name Tiger Woods, and if I don't hear the name Phil Mickelson, sometimes golf doesn't have the catch that it should. But talk about what happened with the golf tournament over the weekend.
Well, you know what? You've got bad boy Rory McIlroy.
Yes.
But, you know, the 23-year-old rookie Emiliano Grillo, he wins the Fry's Open. He takes home a cool $1 million. You know, second hole in the showdown, sunk a birdie. He won with -15. Rory ended the tournament tied for 26 -9. I thought he was going to finish in the top three. He didn't. But you know what? He went to the clubhouse a little early, had some vino, had a good time. It was a great tournament, lots of fun, but great job for Emiliano Grillo.
And everyone who thinks that they're a good golfer, I'm not that great of a golfer. In fact, I don't really play much more than putting, but I know
I play Golden Tee real good.
Golden Tee really good. I guess that counts also. But you know, also there's also a lot of great golf tournaments happening all over the country. So if you like taking out the clubs and having a good time, that's a good sport to play. Also, I know we don't give a lot of thought to it.
Yeah.
But WNBA.
Yeah, congrats to the Minnesota Lynx. You know, third WNBA title in 5 years. Awesome. I heard Prince was there, and I think they were going to party like 1990. They're probably still partying right now. So good job to the ladies. They won 69-52. Awesome job.
What are you thinking about, I know NBA starting next week. If you believe it or not, the Sacramento Kings, they're actually in first place. I know it's preseason.
Yeah, forget about it.
But if you also look at who's in last place in the Western Conference, Golden State.
Yeah.
If you look across the country, last place, Eastern Conference, Cleveland. there's not a lot of thought that you can put into what happens in the preseason. But coming up this season, the Kings should have a decent season because Coach Call, he's made a lot of good moves, and he's thinking that they can be a team that will at least challenge for a playoff position in the Western Conference.
They can. I don't even watch preseason sometimes. I might turn it on in the background, but I mean, Popovich didn't even come to Sacramento. Didn't even bring his top players. And you know what? The Kings, they're gonna be a lot better this year, and you expect good things from them.
Okay, wonderful. Well, guys, I'll tell you what, we're gonna come back with our show on Epic Sports Radio, and we'll have Miss Former California Tracy Stafford, and she'll talk about a serious issue that affects women all over the country. That's called domestic violence.
If you're a homeowner and you're struggling with your mortgage payments, if your bank is giving you the runaround and you can't get a loan modification and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA.
First, let's note that NFA has received a certification of registration from the California Attorney General's office and has a bond on file with the Secretary of State as required by law. NFA will inform homeowners of what their projected income and expenses and other info needs to be to have the best chance of receiving a loan mod. We will recommend qualifying income and expenses that will get them pre-qualified.
If your loan company is giving you the runaround and attorneys are simply too expensive, contact NFA at 916-896-5757. That is 916-896-5757.
My name is Lynn Hallbash. I'm a certified agent with Safe ID Trust. Here is an interesting fact. Most people insure their cars, homes, and valuables for their peace of mind and replacements. But in light of ID theft being the fastest growing crime in the world, they don't think about insuring their identities. But that's what we do at Safe ID Trust. We offer online ID monitoring with our Safe ID Trust Detective, wallet replacement service, 24/7 customer service, and much, much more. By having identity coverage, we restore your identity 100% to pre-theft status. We do all the work for you. You can contact me at 916-826-5762 and the web at safezone.safeidtrust.com.
Half of the United States population follows sports in some form or fashion. Sports is a billion-dollar industry. If you're not advertising with a sports team, you are simply missing the boat. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. EpicNewsSports.com is your doorway to helping your customers follow sports. Whether it's pro, college, or prep sports, it is a great investment of your advertising dollar. With half of the country following sports, you can too by visiting EpicNewsSports.com. At Gamble Insurance Agency, we put the odds in your favor. We handle most or all of your insurance needs and act as your insurance advisor. We will put together a suitable buying strategy with your financial future in mind. We are an independent farmers agency. Call Kit Gamble for a free farmers-friendly review of your insurance policy at 530-772-5041. That is 530-772-5041.
The premier show for all your sports needs. Epic Sports Radio on Money 105.5.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Charlton Curry with my partner, Glenn Spillman. We want to thank you for joining every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. And Glenn, take it away.
We have a very exciting guest right now, Tracy Stafford, former Miss California and current Miss U.S. Virgin Islands Globe. She is a survivor of domestic violence and an advocate. Welcome to the show, Tracy. First question I have for you. When this was going on and you were first encountering this domestic violence, questions that people all over, and especially guys and women, why did you stay?
And that is a very complicated question, but what I will say is that I'm a third-generation survivor.
Oh, wow.
So my grandmother was abused, my mother was abused, I grew up watching it, my first kiss was a rape.
Oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
So my entire life, all I'd seen was violence when it related to men and women.
Right.
So when I went into this situation, for me to be hit was not as shocking as it would be for someone who has never seen.
So you kind of thought, well, this is kind of what goes on.
That's what it is. I mean, when you're growing up, you're told you keep private business private.
Right.
You know, so I assumed it was happening in everybody else's home, but I didn't really think about it because it was my normal. So for me, and there were very different reasons why I stayed as well, because for a lot of folks, financially, they can't afford to get out. But I was the breadwinner. I mean, in this situation, I just thought it was normal. But most importantly, my body had shown me that it could heal. You know, my bruises heal, my bones heal, but I didn't know that my heart would. And because of my background, that's sort of my situation.
Okay, you know, a lot of guys in sports, just this year, you got Ray Rice, Justin Cox, you got Joseph Randall, Bruce Miller, Rodney Austin, Ray McDonald, just to name a few, just in the NFL, and then the most recent Chicago Blackhawks, Patrick Kane. You know, when this stuff goes on in sports, and they just get slapped on the hands, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, that's normal. It's absolutely normal. And even for me, again, thinking it's normal, and I was actually struck in public when I was pregnant, and no one stopped. Had I been a dog...
Where was this? Where did this happen?
Oh, this was actually in Richmond, California.
Oh,
and it was during rush hour, and no one stopped to say a word. So it further solidifies that it's a normal thing.
Okay.
You know, and so it's not unusual at all.
Okay. Now, what was the thing that happened? What was the deciding factor that made you leave? That you said, enough is enough, I'm done?
For me, it was my daughter. She was 3 years old at the time. And her father was actually striking me. And she walked up to him, and she just kind of grabbed his pant leg and said, "Daddy, you go." And he was shocked. I was shocked. She walked him out. She walked back to me and said, "Mama, you okay?" And I looked at her, and she might as well have been saying, "Pass the salt." Wow. And that must have been what I looked like. You know, it's not unusual. She was just more annoyed. And I looked at her, and I thought, this is not okay for her. And that's when I got out. But it was several dealing with the police, and it was quite a while before I was actually free.
Becca, ask the last question, if you would, please.
Yeah. How did you safely escape, and did you take legal action? What kind of legal actions did you take?
Oh, boy. The law was pretty tough at that time. It was very difficult. I had restraining orders, but they had to actually catch him physically there, which was really tough. For me, I was luckier than most. I didn't have to pick up and leave. He actually went away on different charges, went to prison, and that allowed me the time to escape. But for a lot of women, they are absolutely stuck.
Okay, you know what? We're going to bring in 3-time world champion, 2-time super featherweight, 1-time lightweight champion, Tony the Tiger Lopez. He's got a 58-1 with 34 KOs, retired in 1999. We were talking earlier, Tony, and you had your own thoughts on the domestic violence, and I know you have a daughter yourself. So what are your thoughts? Where can women go? What do they do when they get out?
You know, it's not like it's changed. Times has changed. It's not only, okay, watch this. It's not only women. In my business that I do, there's just as many women in jail for committed as there is men, if not more.
Wow.
Times have changed.
Right.
And I don't know why it's changed, but it has. And I guess they're either fighting back or they're getting crazier. It's just times are changing. And but there's a lot of things out there for them. You know, for men and women, there's all kinds of channels they can use in their local cities that they can go through, and there's help out there. There's help everywhere. They just got to look for it. You know.
Okay, now tell us, what have you been doing since 1999?
Well, it was kind of weird. Didn't have nothing to do for the first year, so I goofed off like everybody else does. Finally, someone said, my attorney at the time said, "Hey, you need to get a job before you blow your money." So
a boxer blowing his money?
What? Yeah, that's crazy.
So I said, okay. So I started off as a PI. Didn't like that because back then it was mostly watch husband, watch wife. I'm not a peeping Tom, so I didn't get into that. So I decided that's not for me. So then I got into bail, and I've been doing bail bonds for the last 16 years.
Okay, we talked last Tuesday. We had a great time, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day long. I want to talk about, tell us that story about Don King. You know, we got about 7 minutes left, so in about 4 minutes, tell us that story that you told us. Tell everyone out there that story about Don King.
Well, you know what? I mean, I only have 4 minutes, so you really can't do a whole lot. But see, Don King is not like. Watch this. You've heard about Don King, right?
Yes.
Well,
I
okay,
have.
here's the difference between me and you. I've dealt with him.
Right.
I've signed contracts with him. You might have heard what he says. I'm going to tell you what he's like.
Yeah.
So there's two different concepts here. Now, what you hear is one thing. What I'm going to tell you is factual from me. And so we were going to sign a 5-fight contract with Don King. So he invited us up to Las Vegas, up to his hotel at the Caesar's Palace, and Mike Tyson was in the room, and they're doing our stuff, and so we knock on the door. He lets us in, and it was my dad, myself, and my attorney, and I just introduced my dad as my dad, me as me, and my attorney as John, and didn't say who he was, just said his name.
Right.
And so we're he's doing his Don King stuff, and we're talking back and forth, and he's just being real, and then he'd sit down. I'm not gonna say exactly what he said, but he just says, "Hey man, when I first got into boxing, I had to do what I had to do, and now my only fault is I pay fighters too much money." He goes, "There's no one's gonna pay more money than I will." And at the time, he was right. He was paying me He maxed me out at 130 pounds. So yeah, he was it. He was the man.
Right.
And he said, "I'm gonna get you good fights." This is what I wanted. I wanted to fight the best. I didn't want to fight second best. I wanted to fight the best.
Right.
And so he did all that. And so we're sitting down, and he has, there's 5 contracts on his left and 5 contracts on his right. And so he pushes out, because I just introduced everybody as their name, and he pushes out the first 5 contracts, and he says, okay, he goes, take these out. He goes, I've already signed them. He goes, you put down how much you want to make. He told me you're going to make this much to this much. You put down what you want to make. This is the littlest I'm going to pay you. This is the most I'm going to pay you. You put it down what you want to make. I've already signed them.
Okay.
And I'm going, wow, okay. So then at that time, John leans over, starts to grab one. And he pulls it back, and he goes, hey. And he starts pulling it back. And this is real. I mean, it was almost surreal.
Right.
And he pulls it back, and he goes, well, who are you? And he goes, well, I'm the attorney. And then all of a sudden he puts his other hand on the other 5, and he goes, and starts pushing them out. And so me asking questions, I go, well, what's that all about? And then he stopped with all the he and ha-ha, and he got real serious. And he says, Tony, he goes, you know how many champions sit in that seat where you're at today and think that no one's going to beat them because they're the world champions, the baddest man in the world? He goes, look, I'm a businessman. I'm in this business to make money.
Right.
He goes, because you're a businessman, you're going to make money.
Right.
He goes, you know how many people sit where you're sitting without an attorney? He goes, do you know how to read a contract? I go, no, I don't. I go, that's why I brought him. He goes, and you know how many fighters don't?
Right.
You know how many fighters don't bring an attorney?
Yeah.
And I'm going, wow. He goes, a lot of people sat in your same seat did the same thing. And so, after all this, my attorney goes back, he reads his contracts, and he says, and so the next day I go, hey, man, so what's the difference? What's up? And he goes, well, one, you make money, and the other one you don't. And he goes, and the whole moral of the story is watch, man. Boxing's a business.
Right, exactly.
Handle your business, or someone's going to handle your business for you.
Yeah, when you told us that story, my thoughts about Don King changed immediately.
Yeah,
and we just got a couple more minutes. We're talking about you've got a major dilemma going on. You've got a decision to make. Tell everybody what that is.
Well, I've been doing some acting stuff for quite some time. The first movie I was in an extra in Phenomenon. If you blink, you miss me. And I've never even seen the movie. And so I've been doing stuff here and
Like
there.
where you missed you, Tony.
Well, and I've been doing little movies here and there. I got 4 movies ready to come out as we speak. So my dilemma is I also was thinking about running for mayor of Sacramento.
I vote for you, brother.
And my dilemma now is I just got a big offer from a big director.
Mhm.
That's big time. And so now my dilemma is, do I go left or do I go right? Do I go to the movies or do I go to mayor?
Mhm.
So that's what my real dilemma is right now.
This is Quentin Tarantino. How can you miss that?
I think we've heard of him. We've heard of him before.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and so now my dilemma, I love Sacramento, born and raised here.
Right.
Probably going to die here.
Yeah.
So, I just think Sacramento, we're going in the right direction at the Bronx Beat. I think we just need to make a few changes.
Tony, let me ask you a couple of questions here. I know we have about 2 minutes left. We know about the great fighters, Muhammad Ali, Floyd Money Mayweather, Mike Tyson, Manny Pacquiao. Tony, look, well, we're lucky to have you in the studio. Sugar Ray Robinson, Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis. Talk about, if you have the next minute, who's a great fighter that no one really knows about, but that you see he has potential right now?
Tony the Tiger.
You know what? That's too long of a question, really, honestly. But there's some great fighters out there. Great, I don't know, but there's some good fighters out there. Times has changed. Fight game has changed. Are they as great as they were before? I don't think so. But not because of the fighter. I think because of the trainer. So that's a kind of a tough question. Really.
Well, we're going to have Tony back on the show again, and I hope you come back, Tony. I do want to say this, though. If there's ladies out there, and men for that matter, that is in a domestic violence situation, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. And if you guys have any other questions, you could email glenn@epicnewsports.com. Follow us on all social
Tracy
media.
Steffi.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy,
Thanks
very
for being
much.
here.
That's
Thank you.
awesome for you being here. All our social media, Epic News Sports. Follow us. We'll answer your questions. And Charlton, give us a recap of what we did today.
I know we love talking about NFL football with Big C from the East Coast. We hit on college football, Major League Baseball, even got some golf in there. We know that WNBA and also NBA is coming up. Next week, we'll have even more exciting news. But I want to thank Tony the Tiger Lopez for being in studio with us. And you've given some great insight to
And
what happens.
Tracy Stafford.
Tracy Stafford, thank you both for being here.
Virgin Islands, yes.
Yes,
Virgin
and
Islands.
next week we're going to have Dave Huckabee in studio, so tune in for that.
Every Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. on Money 105.5.
Peace out.